Biomutant takes many influences from other games, Breath of the Wild, Devil May Cry to name but a few, yet at no point does it try to steal their identity. It takes what they have, makes it its own, and then produces something different yet unique and exciting, from beautiful, vast, open and varied environments to amazing looking bosses and creatures. Biomutant sets out to do something special, and it does just that. It delivers an open world experience that not only draws you in and has you wanting more, but is constantly deviating you from the chosen path, as if you're playing, say, something like Fallout 4, only to at some point in the distant future remember that there was something really important that you needed to do, but failed to remember because you're having so much fun exploring the world, you just continue doing just that. It's self-absorbing and brilliant all in its own way, which is why, despite open world games not really being my genre of choice, every once in a while something special comes along, something unique, something that takes the tried and tested formula, adds its own twist and makes it its own. When something like that happens, you can't help but stop and take notice, and Biomutant is just that game. Welcome to my review of Biomutant. Let me start by saying that this review will be, to the best of my ability, a non-spoiler review, and in terms of gameplay, content shown will be up to the first boss. Disclaimer out the way, we can proceed. Biomutant doesn't try to change the formula too much, but instead what it does do is improve on the formula. It takes that Breath of the Wild open world and adds to it. It takes that Devil May Cry combat and incorporates it, all the while making that experience unique to itself and better. From skills to learn, attributes to improve, perks to choose from, and of course the mutations which come in two flavors to help shape your chosen character, there is an RPG here waiting to be explored and conquered. Biomutant's character creation, though basic in nature, gives enough choice and options to satisfy your need with choices of breed, attributes and classes. You have a choice of 5 classes: Deadeye, Commando, Psyphreak, Saboteur and Sentinel. There is one additional class which is available to those who pre-order the game called Mercenary, but I wouldn't dwell on that too much. Mercenary is designed to make your entry easier, but is absolutely not required. This class in itself will only be available for the time being, at the very least, as a pre-order bonus, and there is no way to unlock Mercenary within the game if you do not pre-order. But that aside, it's really not needed. Each class has its own unique style, from dual-handed weapons, casters, dual wielding, melee to ranged combatants, covering all types of playstyles you could want. Added to this, each class has access to its own style of weapon, allowing you to mix their gameplay up that bit more. Unless you are absolutely looking to min-max a certain character style of gameplay, in which case you will find some nice correlations between one of the 6 breeds and attributes depending on your playstyle, be it physical or magical or psi as it's called in Biomutant, which would make these choices, though useful at the start, are mostly irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, as you can eventually unlock every style of play. It's great to see Experiment 101 not limiting the player base like other games do, and at the same time giving you the choice to push in the direction if that is of your choosing. It is after all a single player game, so there is no need for limitations, and I do love the fact that you can pick a character that you absolutely love the look of and then work on that character to unlock the skills that you want to have. Deadeye, for example, starts off as a greatsword user, but what if you wanted Deadeye with dual wielding? You do have that choice later on in the game to unlock that dual wielding skill and have dual wielding as a skill for that character, even though it didn't start. They really have removed all barriers with this game and given you as much freedom as you want, and you have to commend them for that. You can even change the looks of your hero again through an NPC called Trim a Barber. Loving the originality here, boys. The story of Biomutant, without divulging too much into spoiler territory, is largely player driven and based on the choices you actively make while playing. The game itself is fully narrated to you, which is a different take compared to your typical RPG.
Tribe act on understanding of the greater good and a code of honor. They believe uniting the tribes is the only way to restore the peace.
The NPCs of the world have taken a leaf out of the Nintendo book here and make sounds instead of speaking words, but unlike the Nintendo experience, it actually works here because the narrator translates what's being said to you. It's weird and yet at the same time wonderful. It reminds me of Waste from Nier Replicant. It's like watching a Pixar movie at times, and this I like. And to those that find the constant narration too much, you can eventually reduce it, but why you would do that, I don't know. It adds to the charm of the experience and overall immersiveness. The choices you make throughout the game are balanced by an aura system, light and dark, and these level up based on your decisions. Of course, though one would think these would have a branching effect in story, Mass Effect, I'm looking at you here, they really don't. Instead, what they do is give you access to select skills. Throughout the game, you will be given a lot of choices, and deciding to do good or bad levels up that aura. That level then unlocks skills you can use. Based on my gameplay though, going good and some bad, I didn't lose any light aura. So there is no Mass Effect style branching here based on choices you make, and it seems that there is no detrimental effect to trying to level both. In fact, I'm pretty sure you can level both to max. The story sends you on a quest to save the Tree of Life, which supports all life in the world. There are these big creatures called the World Eaters, which essentially want to devour the World Tree, and by doing so, will bring the end of days to life as we know it and reset the world. Your job is to stop them through the aid of the NPCs and various tribes you meet along the way. That is a top level description of the story. Again, I'm not going to go too far into spoiler territory, but that should give you a rough idea of how this is going to play out. Of course, that would be the story when you're not out and about doing everything else and remembering that you actually have a mission to do. Each World Eater also needs to be challenged with a certain apparatus which you need to build and improve before facing them, and when ready, you can challenge them in order to try and save the World Tree. It's all rather great on paper, but the story does leave a bit to be desired. It does pick up pace later, but overall, you're not really playing this for the story, but more for the experience of this amazing open world that is in an unusual way brimming with life after an apocalypse caused by the people of yesteryear and corporations. That isn't to say that there isn't snippets of lore all over the place, there is, and they add an immense background to the world.
There are few records of the chain of events that led to the big apocalypse eons ago, but it's clear the world wasn't prepared for how recklessly the Toxanol Corporation would make its mark on the world. Their rare earth mining and nuclear industries generated tons of waste, and without consideration for the future, they dumped it all in landfills until they ran out of space. That's when they made the big mistake.
They are far more interesting and world building than, to me at least, than the actual kind of story plot itself. The way you find out what happened to the world, why it turned out the way it did, what caused it, all of this is immensely fascinating, and you really do want to learn more about the world you're in, and the story really does just take a back seat overall. And for a game like this, you know, it's okay, but don't expect anything revolutionary. Along your travels, you meet NPCs that represent the different forms of life on the Tree of Life. Some will want to help heal the tree, and some have their own agenda which might involve nothing to do with the tree itself. However, all tribes are influenced by your decisions as you choose to ally with them, use them, or absolutely outright destroy them, all of which will affect the balance of power between the tribes. It's a cool mechanic and does open up access to tribe weapons, and also more importantly help raise your light and also your psi powers, because when you take over an outpost you do gain a psi point. So doing these is very beneficial and you shouldn't ignore them. On top of this, expanding your chosen tribe also gives you access to new mounts, which is always nice. At the very start of the game, it's a very linear experience as you get used to the controls and the world, but once the tutorial aspect is done, lasting around 20-30 minutes, the world becomes your oyster and you are free to travel anywhere you like. I don't See, I don't like open world games, but this game, something about this game just kept me playing and exploring and looking for them secrets. It was thrilling and oft would find myself deviating from the chosen path for hours on end before continuing my plight to save the world tree from the world eaters. As well as the underlying plot of the world tree, there are multiple minor stories too, multiple quest lines, enough here to keep you playing for hours on end. I was quoted an average of about 65 hours if you do everything. However, based on my gameplay, you could easily double this. Such is the size of this game, and it's great. At no point are you bored, at no point are you wondering, why am I doing this? You just want to continue, and that is a true testament to this game. As you may have noticed in the character creation screen with the elemental strengths which can be increased via armor you can find in the open world, there are a number of zones that are hazardous to you, and simply stepping in unprepared will not only weaken your defense but rapidly deplete your health. So forward planning and hunting for gear to make exploring those areas is definitely worthwhile, so make sure to check out the stats of all gear before dismantling for parts or selling for green, the in-game currency. This brings me perfectly to weapons and armor. Earlier when talking about classes, I said it really didn't make a difference which way you went, as eventually you would unlock everything. Let's say you started off as Rex like I did and picked Deadeye. You'll start with a greatsword, but greatsword just might not be for you. That's okay, because you can unlock the other playstyles. For example, if you are missing a skill for dual wield from the very beginning because you went greatsword, it's no problem. You can learn the skill to dual wield and you'll have access to that class and its skills. It couldn't be simpler. This really does help the game immensely, as it just removes barriers, and that's amazing. I love the freedom you get from the loot in the game as you traverse the world defeating bosses, clearing side quests, or simply looting towns. You will pick up a lot of materials as well as armor. Looting is great and it's what we all want, but what's even better than looting is crafting a weapon you looted materials for, something that's personal. This is where the game truly shines as you venture into its crafting system, which really opens the game up for you. For example, when you go to create a weapon, you select the weapon attachment, the base, and then certain weapons have mod slots too to add even more damage output or just for customizability. Your armor is also afflicted with the same mod slots, allowing you to improve said pieces even more. It just gives you so many possibilities in creating equipment needed for certain instances. It's also worth mentioning that you can create items from anywhere in the game world, as the item creation is nested within your menus. Enhancing them, however, does require you to find the many enhancing benches around the world. These are indicated by air balloons and they are easy to spot. Of course, unlike other games which makes carrying multiple weapons a burden, here in Biomutant creating multiple weapons has its benefits. Fighting in the rain, take out your lightning infused weapon and shock your enemies to death. Fighting during the day, take out your fire infused weapon and burn them all. The game has this genius wheel you can access without going into the main menu while in game, and allows you to hot swap weapons on the fly in combat without a distraction to the flow of gameplay. This makes the need to carry multiple weapons ever more needed and useful. Armor also factors into this. Earlier I mentioned hazardous areas will have very severe detrimental effects on you. This stands true with areas within the game covered in radiation, lack of oxygen, toxic, etc. And armor is a way to mitigate this all the way up to 100% effectiveness, so you won't be affected by that detrimental effect at all. Even if you encounter an armor piece where its level is just simply too low, don't worry about their level either, as you have enhancing benches that allow you to level up the gear as well. If you can think of it, the game probably has it and then some. Experiment 101 really did go all out in delivering the best fluid experience they could, and as a player I appreciate this. Like many other games of this genre, Gear has its own rarity system based on stars. The higher the stars, the better the item. Higher rarity items have an increased chance of coming with a special ability, like for example firing an additional saw blade per shot, or lightning shots, or flame shots. which is pretty damn cool if you ask me. I found a weapon earlier in the game and it is amazing. It fires lightning based shots and especially in the rain it does crazy damage. So definitely check out for these, but also if you do dismantle these weapons you do get a lot of materials for them, so it's a choice between how you want to go about it. Vendors are also another way to get loot. If you see them in town, in the wilderness, definitely check out what they have. Some even have licenses for mounts, which is pretty cool because there are a lot of mounts to collect in this game and you can switch between the ones you want to use, so definitely keep an eye out for them. Combat is the next area we are going to look at. Combat in Biomutant is pretty simple with your bread and butter hack and slash, but for those that want to seek out more, there are skills you can unlock and activate through button combinations that will combo and deal a lot more damage. With these, the gunplay and freestyle air combos as well as your Wungshu ability, which is essentially your burst, you have a plethora of ways to hone your skills and unleash your fury on your foes. Those air combos never look so good. But to put it in layman terms, the combat is very simple to get into, very easy to master, and the game just makes the experience as easy as it can in order for you to just have fun. The combat isn't difficult, it looks very stylish and it looks cool, and when you see those high damage numbers, it's great. Mixing the gunplay with the actual blading is spot on, and once you get to experience it, I know you'll love it too. Side quests will be what you spend most of your time in. They are rather diverse as well, from fetch quests collecting items lost in the wild to discovering hidden bunkers with an enormous amount of awesome loot to monster hunts. And no, I'm not saying that incorrectly, that is how they call monster hunts in this game, monster hunts. These are awesome, giving you great rewards and range from basic fauna to really challenging ones. Aside from these, you also have quests that help you save villages, rebuild them, and though don't get too excited, it's all rather basic, but the diversity is there and it's all the better for it. The fetch quests and the distances from quest activation to quest destination can be very daunting at times and almost put you off entirely from going to get them, but you do have the solace of knowing that once complete you also unlock the fast travel there and all the ones leading up to it, as well as having the ability to fast travel back to the quest giver, so it's not all bad. Additional to melee combat, the game offers you two types of mutations which grant you active abilities, biomutations and psi power. You need bio points to upgrade biomutations, as you might have guessed, which can be found from either roaming bosses or containers you find in the open world. Psi power requires psi points. These will mostly be obtained by activating psi poles, which are also scattered around the world. You will find them also in liberated outposts you take over for your chosen tribe, so they are definitely worth doing. These activate skills that you can assign to your button of choice with a selection of up to 4. The skills are very diverse, from a biohazard cloud with flies to lasers to rolling around in a ball of clear gel, taking your enemies with you as you go along. Best of all, the skills are actually useful, right? They are pretty damn awesome. They add to your arsenal and are not there just for show. The game also offers a photo mode that can be activated at any time, as well as a new game plus feature which allows you to keep your skills and your equipment with quests and tribe quests reset. New Game Plus will make enemies harder and is still being worked on, tweaked and balanced from what I've been told, but the fact that it's baked into the game from launch is very nice to see in terms of replayability and longevity. We've already established that the game is around 60 to 100 hours long depending on how you're playing the game, but then being able to jump back in with New Game Plus with your skills and abilities and go ally with a different tribe and continue that playthrough again is pretty damn awesome. So what's the overall verdict for Biomutant? If you are looking for a game that is open world, has cool, fun and engaging combat, a crafting system you could lose yourself in, and quests that seem to go on for an eternity, Biomutant will be the perfect purchase for you. You will be lost in this game for a very long time in a very good way. If you are looking for a heavy story based on intricate yet deep storyline in the same way as say like a linear RPG or JRPG, this isn't it. The story is there and it is fine and keeps the game going. There are some twists and surprises, but it doesn't blow you away. It's more complementary to everything else. However, for a game like this, I think that's okay. The story was never supposed to be the central focus. Everything else around the story is. The scenery, the exploring, the crafting, the questing, and everything that makes Biomutant Biomutant is what this game is about. The story is essentially there to keep you on a path from A to B, and it does that just fine. There is something special here, and even I, as someone who very much dislikes open world games, found myself not only immersed for hours within the world of Biomutant, but actually enjoying it as well. And so will you. Thank you for watching my review of Biomutant. Thanks so much for watching my video. If you look over to the left, you'll find a video that I'm recommending to you that I think you might actually enjoy. On the right, you'll see a video that is recommended by YouTube. I really do hope you enjoyed the video, and until the next one, remember to always remain legend.